So what's cool about this is I can essentially control the parameters that are in this synthesizer just by using this 3 joints on my body. Yo people, what's going on? It's been a while. I figured today I wanted to show you a new setup that I got with my Super Collider plugin called SCKinect. So SCKinect, for those of you who don't know, is my way of integrating the Xbox Kinect into Super Collider, and it was my master's research project, which I recently graduated. Yippee. And now my goal is to map all of the joints that I want from this framework that I created into an external app, say like the Animoog Z. So there's a couple things that make this really awesome. One of them is this program called RTPMIDI, and this allows me to actually connect my Linux machine, which I'm running Ubuntu Studio, to my iPhone's or my iPad's networking session, so I can work with the apps that I have on my iPad. And another thing I got going on is I have my Super Collider session, which I will show. So the first step is initialization. So first thing we want to do is set the number of output bus channels to 6. This is just something I do for my at-home surround setup, which is a 5.1 channel, which means there's 6 channels. But it's not something that's necessarily required for this, since I'll be using the audio from my iPad. And then the next thing I do is I prompt the server to boot up when I run this line of code. And first thing it does is initialize a MIDI client. Second thing is a MIDI output. And then the third thing is I initialize the Kinect UGen that I created as part of my research. And this does a bunch of functionality. I won't go into detail here, but if you want to go check that one out, I have all of the documentation at this link. And it's also available on the GitHub if I go all the way back and go to this page right here. So that's pretty cool. And once I launch all of this, we should see some output here in the server post window. And looks like everything's booted up. You could see a window where it's tracking all of the joints on my body. So now what I want to do is I want to activate some control buses where I can map the tracking data from each of the joints that I want to track to some controls that I could use with MIDI, for example. So the first thing I'm going to do is create a control bus, and then I'll call this one C control bus, launch that one, and then E control bus. And next thing I'm going to do is map each of these, the first one to the right wrist, second one to left wrist, and the third one to my right knee. So let's go ahead and run those. And now the challenge is getting data from Super Collider to be sent out as MIDI. And one of the ways we can monitor a control bus is we could use a synth def that sends a reply when the control bus changed, and it will send that a reply as an OSC message that the OSC def can listen to. And once it receives this message, we could send out a MIDI value to our network of interest. So the first thing I'll do is I will set up all of the synth defs, which we set up, and then I'm going to now launch these OSC listeners. And these should be listening for changes in the values. And it looks like we will need to also create our monitors, which are synth defs. And you can see there we get a synth def, which is the type of those, and it's returned by the Super Collider as a primitive. And put these here as our bus monitors, and now we're going to start getting data being sent back and forth. And finally, we can connect this to an app on my iPad. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over to that. So now I'm on my iPad, and I'm going to go ahead and launch an app called AUM. And this is a digital audio workstation that I could use on my iPad. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna load the Animoog Z synthesizer and make sure MIDI is set up in a settings. So we have MIDI set up. And you'll see here that I have the settings panel where I can actually connect to a lot of different networks. And you can see the hosts that are on my local network, which I've set up through RTPMIDID. And everything should be set up. So now we just launch it with Super Collider. And I'll go ahead and connect to the MIDI port. Sometimes it reassigns the order of everything. And so I'll need to test which one is actually connected to my AUM session. There we go. So we're getting that one connected. And I'll trigger this note and this note. So what's cool about this is I can essentially control the parameters that are in this synthesizer just by using this 3 joints on my body. I hope you enjoyed this little demo, and I have some exciting things planned for the future. Peace.